Ever wondered what makes your favorite apps really tick? It's not the stuff you see on screen, it's the back end, that hidden engine doing all the heavy lifting. And if you've ever thought, hey, I want to build that, then you are in exactly the right spot. We're going to lay out a super clear step-by-step roadmap to becoming a backend developer. And we're going to do it with Python. So let's get right to it. What even is backend development? Honestly, the best way to picture it is the engine of a car. You pop the hood and there it is. You don't see it when you're cruising down the highway, right? But it's what's providing all the power, all the logic, everything that makes the car, well, go. That's exactly what the backend does for an app. It's the magic behind the curtain. Okay, so our journey is broken down into 5 simple phases. First, we're laying the foundation. Then we'll assemble our toolkit. After that, it's time to go from code to creation. Phase 4 is all about becoming a back-end architect. And finally, we'll polish up that professional profile to get you job ready. All right, let's dive into Phase 1, laying the foundation. Seriously, you have to master the absolute essentials before you even think about building. You wouldn't build a house on a shaky foundation, right? Same idea here. Getting this stuff right is totally non-negotiable. So where do we start? With our language of choice, Python. And you've got to get comfortable with the basics. Things like variables, data types, loops, and functions. And then there's this big one, object-oriented programming, or OOP. Don't let the name scare you. It's just a smart way to organize your code into logical, reusable blueprints. Why does this matter so much? Because clean logic and reusable code, that's the bedrock. It's what separates a messy project from a professional one. Okay, so you know some Python. Now what? You have to understand the world your code is going to live in, the internet itself. Think about it. What actually happens when you type a URL and hit enter? It's basically a conversation. Your browser, the client, sends a request to a server somewhere out there. They talk to each other using a protocol called HTTP. You'll need to get familiar with requests, responses, APIs, and those famous status codes. Like the dreaded 404 not found. You got to know the rules of the road. All right, foundation set. Let's move on to Phase 2, assembling your toolkit. This is where we pick the right tools for the job. A good developer isn't just about knowing how to code. It's about knowing what tools to use and when. And the first major tool in that kit? A database. Think of it as your app's brain, or maybe it's long-term memory. It's where you store everything. User info, posts, you name it. To talk to that database, you gotta learn its language. And for most, that's SQL. It all boils down to 4 key operations, something we call CRUD. It's just a simple acronym for create, read, update, and delete. That's it. That's how you manage data. Now, the good news is you don't have to build everything from the ground up. That's where frameworks come in. They give you a huge head start. In the Python world, the big choice for beginners is usually between 2, Flask and Django. Think of Flask as the lightweight, beginner-friendly option. It's minimal. It makes you do things manually, which is actually great for learning. Then you've got Django. Django is the batteries-included powerhouse. It comes with an admin panel, security, the whole shebang. It's built for bigger projects. So where should you start? The general advice, and it's really solid advice, is to start with Flask. Yep. Learn the ropes, get your hands dirty, and really understand how things are working under the hood. Then, once you've got that down, moving to something bigger like Django is going to feel like a piece of cake. And that brings us to Phase 3, which is my favorite part, from code to creation. This is where the magic happens. All that theory, all those tools, we're finally going to put them together and build something real. This is the part where everything starts to click. Look, don't try to build the next Facebook on day 1. Please. Start small. Build something you can actually finish. A simple Notes API, a backend for a to-do list, maybe a little weather app. The whole point here is to practice the core skills. Setting up routes, talking to your database, and sending back data, usually as JSON. Okay, awesome. You've built your first little project. It works. But now we have to ask a really, really important question. How do you make sure your app, and more importantly, your users' data, is actually secure? And let me be clear, this part is not optional. You absolutely have to get this right. We're talking about things like authentication with JWTs. That's just a fancy way of giving users a secure key to access your app. You need to know about sessions and cookies, and you must hash passwords. That means scrambling them so they're useless if a hacker ever gets them. This is the stuff that makes your app professional and trustworthy. Speaking of professional, that brings us right into Phase 4, becoming a backend architect. This is where you level up. It's the leap from just being a beginner to thinking like a pro. So, what does that look like? Well, first, you go deeper on your database skills, learn about joins, indexes, that kind of thing. Then, you tackle bigger portfolio projects. Think like an e-commerce backend. And here's a huge one. You start testing your code. You write tests to catch bugs before your users do. And finally, you learn to deploy. You take your app from your laptop and put it out on the web for anyone to use, on platforms like Render or Railway. Okay, we're on the home stretch. Phase 5 is all about polishing your professional profile. You've got the skills, now it's time to make sure everyone else knows it. These are the final steps to getting job ready. First things first, let's talk about version control. This is completely 100% non-negotiable. Every single professional backend engineer lives and breathes inside tools like Git and GitHub. It's how you save your work, how you collaborate with a team. If you want a job, you have to know this stuff. All right, want to really stand out from the crowd? Here are the skills that will do it. Things like writing good API documentation, using tools like Redis for caching to make your ops super fast, running background jobs with Celery so your users aren't left waiting around. This stuff shows you're not just a beginner, you're thinking about the bigger picture. So what does it all lead to? This, your portfolio. Here's your final checklist. Aim for a few beginner projects, a couple of more intermediate APIs, and one really solid, well-documented backend system. Make sure your README files are amazing. This portfolio, this is your ticket. It's what will land you a full-time job. And there you have it. The full roadmap is laid out for you crystal clear. The only question left is, what are you going to build first?